I knew, when I had good leaders or ones that were not my favorite, whether it was in business or in sports or whatever. Um, but now it takes on a different meaning for me because now I'm in a position of leadership. I run, teams here for the company I work for here in Utah. And so it's something I've been thinking about and learning about even more. Um, what do you feel like good leadership is? How do you become a good leader? Like, let's go there.
You know, the times in my life that I'm most proud of are the times that either when I didn't feel like doing something or I was scared, I still did it. And I think that you could look at that and say that's leadership. I think sometimes in the face of courage or sometimes in the face of fear, it takes courage to show up in society or in the world when a lot of people are telling you one thing and that's just not something you can get down with. Look no further than what we all watched take place the better part of the last half decade in the United States. There were a lot of people that, through different media channels, were being gaslit around certain things that they wanted you to do with your body. And I do think it took a lot of leadership on a very intimate and deeply personal level for people to say, you know what, that doesn't feel good. I'm not going to do that. And on another layer of leadership, some went a step further and even started speaking out against it. And in fact, many of them sacrificed their careers. They sacrificed being able to have a channel on social media for just telling people what they thought, which at the time they may have been called certain names. And now what they're being called is a truth teller. And so sometimes leadership is how you show up for yourself when no one else will ever know that you're doing it. And then on the other hand, leadership is showing up when everyone sees it. For me, the most challenging part of leadership is showing up for myself in the areas that no one else knows I do. And that's an area that's been distinctly evolutionary for me in the last 5 years, coincidentally as well. But you know, when I look at the world today, I feel that a lot of the challenges we face are reflective of people being complacent and comfortable. And I feel that in order to create a new world, it's going to require courage and sometimes discomfort or doing things that are a bit unfamiliar or out of routine. And in some capacities might be referred to as courageous, which who would have thought just being unique and yourself and speaking your heart would be courageous. But that's exactly what's needed in the world today is showing up as your own unique self. And in the advent and creation of what we're watching take place within different technologies, particularly AI, the one thing that no one can replace is you, your wisdom, your experiences, your perspective, the vantage point and consciousness that you create and contribute to the collective because of what you've gone through in your life. Man, that is uniquely yours. And together, if we all bring that to the table, it no longer becomes about being right. It becomes about creating a tapestry that ultimately moves us along in a really beautifully unique, healthy, and constructive way. And that's the type of leadership when I think about where we're at in the world is to me really inspiring to see so many people showing up in that capacity.
Hmm. Um, you talked about how you handle, I don't know if this is exactly what you said, but how to handle what's hard even when nobody is looking. And from my perspective, you're an excellent leader. We're going to talk about NABA and everything that we've created and that community and the way that you lead that. And I often ask you this outside of podcast recording, like, you seem cool and like things are all good and you're pretty even. How do you do that? What are things that you have in your daily routine or weekly or whatever? Like, how do you emotionally like metabolize and digest what you're going through and your stuff so that you can be a better leader? What are things that you do?
I break down pretty fucking regularly. I mean, more than people would probably think that I
Really?
do. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't expect or ask anyone else to carry the burden of what it is I'm dealing with. I don't, you know, pick up the phone and call a lot of people and drop it in their lap. Um, there's a handful of people I'll share certain things that I'm going through to hear their advice, or if I feel they can help, I'll ask for it. But ultimately, in this season of my life, I think what makes it very different than other seasons is I've taken full responsibility for the stuff I'm dealing with. And if there's something I'm dealing with that can feel heavy or is uncomfortable in the sense that I wouldn't wish it upon anybody else, um, then ultimately I have to kind of zoom out and look at the board and go, what did I miss? Clearly, I fucking missed something here. And I go, okay, I see where I could have done better there. And I see that I didn't just miss it, it kind of kept on. And I can see how now why there's a little bit of water in the boat here or whatever, right? And so the first thing I do is I know that I got to deal with whatever emotion that I'm carrying in myself, particularly for me, just on my heart and my chest. I've got to deal with that. I became an expert and still am. I don't know that I'll ever not be an expert at not dealing with stuff. I'm really fucking good at that. This season, though, with where it is, I feel both qualified and called to go. There's no way I'm going to get there unless I'm light and nimble and able to make adjustments on the go. And you can't do that if you're carrying things that you don't have to carry. And so every single day, I really do, whether it be my meditation work, mindful of any alcohol I'm drinking, that will always sort of, you'll eventually catch back up and get on the other side of whatever hangover or whatever may come from it. But you're losing time and, or how I'm eating or if I'm traveling. There's a lot of things, but ultimately I have to stay in a really productively awesome, exciting routine that serves me and my interest. And when I feel like I'm carrying a lot in my heart, I go back to square one and start checking boxes and get on the other side of whatever it is I'm carrying and remember, hey, look, you created this. This is your world. None of these people would exist in your experience if it weren't for you. And so just a really abundant level of ownership of every single detail.
Mm.
And
Abundant level of ownership. I like that.
that doesn't always come easy. That might sound surprising to people that work with me. Some people think I might be a little hard on them, although I think I could be much harder. you know, Compared to the people that have coached me in my life, I try and be really, really kind with my words and how I and the tones I use and everything. I would never want to hurt someone. But sometimes when you say things, it doesn't matter how you say it. If you're coaching someone up and a step into the potential of what you see in them that their actions are not leading them to become, then man, sometimes it's not gonna be like one of those cheesecakes at the Cheesecake Factory in 2002. It's gonna hit a little different. So yeah, I just try and be an example for myself every day and for others and show up the best way that I know how.
Abundant level of ownership. I might steal that. I'll give you credit, but I like that.
I don't know that I've ever said it until today, but ultimately, London, I find a lot of comfort in the fact that I know I'm doing my best. It's not perfect, um, but you know, I want to make the people I'm around proud. I want to make a difference in the world. I want to make my mom and dad proud, my brother proud. And whenever things get difficult, and sometimes I feel like I can't do something, or I want to quit, or I'm looking for emergency exits, which is not an uncommon feeling. when I go through that list, I don't have to get too many people down to know that I can't. I
Mm-hmm.
could do it for me, no problem, but there's no way I could let them down. And so I'm sure everybody has their own reasons for why they stay in the hunt and stay in the game and stay engaged even when it's hard. Mine start with my parents, my friends, that future version of me that I know is cheering me on. Um, and then I go from there and I go, all right, let's regroup. Let's take a deep breath, do what you need to do. You've never not figured anything out before. What's going to stop now? So let's figure it out. And that's the routine.
Mm. Well, good on you. Um, being an expert, you said I was an expert at not feeling, and you also said looking for that exit. I think a lot of people, maybe they don't realize it, but just like you said, are experts at pushing it down or pushing it away, are experts at taking, that quick exit, when things get hard or uncomfortable.